The UK is in the middle of an avian flu outbreak, so we're having to bring in more stringent biosecurity measures to make sure our livestock's safe. One of the biggest is for wildfowl, because we are, it's windy today, because we are right next to a pretty substantial loch. The ducks are still in, so that's part of it. Because we're so close to a loch, we have a lot of wildfowl come through, so there's a greater chance of transmission from them. Now, we don't have wild waterfowl land on the duck pond, but still, part of the restrictions are that any body of water that has access to wild birds, you can't have your livestock on. So we could just fence off the duck pond and just keep them out of it. Muscovy ducks aren't that bothered about water. They generally need a body of water for really successful mating, but that's not such an issue at this time of year anyway, because they're not in lay. They're quite season dependent in terms of laying. But what we're going to do is, right, I'll show you. I'm going to see behind me there's a little bit of wet still in the paddy field. The monk at the end of it I dropped last night, so I dropped all the water out of that, and that's starting to dry out nicely. Now, within a few hours of this wind, there's going to be no water there at all, and I'm going to put some soil in there anyway. There's one little low spot that tends to gather a little bit of water, and I want to avoid any of that. So what we're going to do is let that dry out. Windy. Let that dry out, and the ducks will be fine going into that then. So I'm going to move the electric fence from around the duck pond and their outdoor run here over to the paddy. Now, eventually there will be permanent fencing in. The electric fence is a temporary thing, but to reduce the attraction for wild birds anyway, I'm also going to drop the water out of the duck pond into the wetland filter behind me, and that'll go away, and it'll water the swale and go on down the system. But the other main benefit is that will give us, it'll be a good 2 foot lower, and I can get down into the centre of the pond, and we can harvest the mud that's built up from the duck manure or washing in. We can harvest that manure and the mud that it's turned into, and we can use that to fertilise the raised beds ready for next year, and then you'll have the winter to break down further into soil. So I'm going to do that now. You can see how simple it is. There's the pipe monk. Just push that down, and that's it. And then there we go. You can see the water rushing out there into the wetland filter. Now, at the moment, it's not doing a great deal at this time of year because of the typhus pretty much dying back for winter. But it still increases the fertility of this whole system. None of it's wasted, and there's no fertilizer running out the bottom of the land. So now my next job is, because I got the ducks in, it's not bad. If they were in for a few weeks, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I don't like to keep them in. Ducks, they're pretty hardy. They do like to be outside, the Muscovies. So the next thing is to move the electric fence over and put that around. Now, the section that goes from the hut across as far as behind me here, this run stays exactly as it is. So all I need to do is take it from the far end, unpick the whole lot around to here, and then put the section that I've just gathered around the duck pond, and we can let them out again. So that's the ducks out into the paddy field. Muscovies are naturally fairly neophobic, so they're not exactly rushing out, but by tomorrow they'll be out and keen as. You can see the little bit of standing water there. That'll partially dry out in the next day or so, but I'm going to add some manure and some soil to it. You can see them picking insects out of the air. Sky candy, flying chocolate. Hello. Let's go in. So yeah, that door there is going to stay closed until it's safe for them to go out there again, and that one there is going to stay open. Here's the electric fence shifting. It's a bit of a fiddle to do this one, because this is a 50-metre fence and it's longer than I need. So what I've done is I've tied it off here, and I've had a run just go up there and back, which takes out about 10 metres or so, because otherwise it's too big. You can see it goes all the way around the paddy and connects against the side of the hut there where it always did. There they go, they're out now. Hey ducks! So there they come. So that white one is just going down into the paddy field there. That's Lucky. She was hand hatched. So she's kind of the runt, but she's probably the bravest out of all of them. So they're going exploring. They haven't been out into the paddy field for months, not since quite early spring. So you can see they're in there having a great old time. So I'm going to put a load of soil in and level that up. Meanwhile, we can access, oh yeah, Gilgamesh going in. There you go. So they'll have a good hour or so now before the sun goes down. Meanwhile, here, got my spade, got my wheelbarrow, and down in the duck pond. While they're out, I've got a couple of weeks to do this. I can get all the muck out of the bottom. This isn't easy one-handed, but you can get the idea. Now have a look at this when I give it a bit of a wobble. See all that gel? That's a beautiful anaerobically digested duck muck with a little bit of soil that's eroded in from the banks. It's kind of inevitable. I'd like to get to the stage. At the centre there, when I first dug it, I didn't have the monks fitted. It's evolved over time. And that goes down a good 5 feet right in the centre. You know, you wouldn't walk out there, but really it's only about, I don't know, maybe a foot at the very deepest spot because of soil washing in and the ducks doing their thing. So eventually we will reach a stage where when the monks have dropped the water out of the duck pond, it'll be pretty much level and we can harvest all of that lovely muck. And I'll show you what we're doing with it. So you can see what we started doing with it. This is into one of the raised beds. Look at them tree cabbages, they're huge. But you can see that it's nice and deep. That's getting on for about 8 inches thick. So that'll do its thing all winter, so that by spring all that fertility will have all been taken down by worms. Once the kale is out and we take the tree cabbages out at the other end, this will be tarped over so the worms will do their thing, so that we'll have a beautiful dark rich soil here by spring, ready for the plants to go into. And that is positioned, there's the duck house, so you can see the raised beds are here and the chickens are over there. So all the animals are just on the edge of zone 1 in permaculture terms, so they can be brought in and out to do their thing without a great deal of effort. You know, we're not transporting them halfway across the croft, and I'm also not barrowing their manure across. There will be more integrated as time goes on, but there's a few more buildings to go up first. So let's go see the ducks. See, they're having a great old time. There's some duckweed down here that I've introduced just because when it was standing water after the rice had done its thing, or hadn't done its thing this year. Muscovies are brilliant. Best ducks you can have. Great fun. So that's the Muscovies into their autumn quarters. So they'll be in there for the foreseeable future. They're inside electric fence, nice and safe. It's been properly buttoned down, better than it was around the pond, to be honest. Yeah, so that's them in there until it's safe for them to go back into the pond after we've cleared that out and after we've had the all clear for avian flu. They don't have to go undercover. There are certain restrictions that have to be met. Mostly they're for large commercial flocks of poultry. They're not as crucial for us. If you read through, it's it's based on animal numbers. We're obviously at the very lowest end of them sort of numbers. So it's easier to comply than it is if you've got a massive, great big flock. We do have the capacity to keep them all inside if needs be, but it's not as good for them, obviously. The ducks, they want to be outside, they want to be messing around in the mud. I mean, that is a duck in its element, having a great time.